My friends, I have sat here for 10 minutes trying to figure out the right position for this camera so that I can do my hippie news. So I finally said, F it, this is how it'll be. So if I don't look directly at the camera and, sorry, ooh, noisy place, and I've just brought my microphone a little closer. If it isn't perfect, I'm sorry, folks. But peace and cheers, love and harmony. You got Gord here, your hurtin' hippie with Hippie News Network, where the news is never faked, but I am often baked. And I'm going to get baked with all of you. Let's start. I have a bit of the truth. Can you handle the truth? Because I'm bringing the truth today. Peace. The truth is a really, really nice strain. It's indica, but it's really leaning daytime. And very strong. That was a little bit much. Up around the 28% mark. So I thought I'd show you a bit of it, and then we'd get moving. Today's news is Canadian. I know I was mostly... Let's show you that. Look at that. Really, really nice. I know it doesn't focus up close. I need a better camera. My friends, although I have 4 or 5 different articles to bring to you, and they'll all be below in the description. And while you're looking there, you can click subscribe if you haven't, and you can click your thumbs up. But this is a completely Canadian version from this Canuck to you. Canada is getting closer and closer to our legalization, Bill C-45, the Cannabis Act. And there is a lot of updates to bring to you. What I'm going to be doing is giving you a picture of how this legislation has grown and what it means province by province. Every single territory or province in Canada I'm going to be talking about. So please stay tuned. For some of you it might be boring, but this is how history is made, and we're watching it. And maybe my kids one day will replay this one or some of these. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. The first thing I'm bringing to you is from CannaChronicle.com, although there are lots of other sources for this. Bill C-45, Canada's Cannabis Act, just passed to legalize recreational marijuana. Does it mean that it is legal? No. This still has to go through the fine-tuning in the Senate. The Senate will approve it, will push it through, but will likely add or tweak. But the way it sits now seems to be the way it will be, and it's staying on track. And in fact, many provinces, it says right here, I'm quoting now, the Senate will bring its sober reflection to this bill. And I think it's really important to help us get things right. Parliamentary Secretary Bill Blair told CTV. But we also expect to work as diligently as everyone else in this country has in recognition that delay is unacceptable. So there is no way they're going to delay this act. It's coming through. Bill C-45 would repeal prohibition for adults, setting the minimum age at 18 and allowing each province to make their own choices for many other situations. That is what I'm going to speak to. I am going to give you the breakdown of the current state of the legislation. Think about it this way. It's federally becoming legal, but the responsibility to produce, control, distribute, and police is coming down to provincial and even down to the municipal level. So The bill is pretty well in its final form. The Senate shouldn't touch it much. But the provinces now, if you're coming from the US, your states now have to take what that means to their constituents. As they have been over the last 6 months, many of the provinces have put out questionnaires to their people, at least the provinces that wanted the people's opinion. Some did not do it. We'll get to that. So I am now going to go province by province, see where their legislation is, and talk about each one. You're going to get a lot of opinion today, some fact from this, and then we'll move on to other subjects. But this first link is going to be most of the talk. So let's start with one of my favorite provinces, and hang on a second, a little bit of clear. Cheers with me, because this is good news. This is something that we've worked towards since I was a young boy, not man. Cheers. And this, my friends, is the Hive, Yocan Hive 2.0. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely good working. Check my channel, I've done a review. Back to the story. British Columbia has not announced its regulations yet, but sometimes it's easier to read like this. Yeah, let me take these off. BC hasn't announced its regulations yet, but is expected that they adopt a hybrid model that allows private cannabis retailers to operate alongside a crown corporation, which is the same way the province currently handles their alcohol. They have BC Liquor Control Board, BC Liquor Control Board, yeah, BCLCB has stores throughout the province. They sell liquor, but there are also private enterprises and craft industries that do the same. BC has indicated through early talks with their people that they will support the dispensary framework that's out there under certain regulations, making it much stricter access, much tighter control, and fewer. So BC's on the wave. Alberta is along the same pattern. Let me talk about Alberta now. We are moving from the West Coast. If you're from the US, pull up a map, check it out. It's kind of fun, a little bit of geography at the same time. Alberta, which is a very conservative province, I live here. Alberta plans to sell recreational marijuana at privately operated stores that will be overseen by the Alberta Gaming and Liquor Commission. The province will control online sales through a government website. The legal age, set at 18, will remain at 18, the minimum age for purchasing alcohol here. 18 is in Alberta, 19 in BC. I didn't mention that, but it's 19 in BC. 18 is the legal age of adulthood here. So Alberta is sticking to the way Alberta always has. We got rid of all our crown corporations 20, 30 years ago and have never gone back to having the government in the business of business. That's not their place. Their place is utilities. So we are a very conservative province, even though the New Democrat Party is running it right now. It's hugely conservative. They put out a feeler to the people. The people said, this is what we want, this is what we'll get. And I'm happy for that. I'm happy for that. Saskatchewan is expected to release their regulations during the winter of 2018. So it's coming. Manitoba will also sell recreational marijuana at privately owned stores overseen by Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. The province has not set their legal age yet. I believe in Manitoba liquor is 19, but I do not know. Ontario. This is the one that is the absolute most ridiculous thing and there's a few that are leaning towards Ontario's model, none that are adopting it fully, because it's a stupid model, but let me read it. Canada's most populated province plans to open 40. Get it? 40. You heard that. 40. provincially operated cannabis stores next year, which will grow to 150 by 2020. Who cares what it'll grow to by? If only 40 next year. Anyways, sorry, let me finish. They have no plans to allow private retail. Legal age will be 19, same as alcohol. Now, let me tell you, Ontario is our most liberal province. Although BC tends to be California when it comes to pot and just freedom and all that, it is not as liberal. BC believes in freedom more than the bigness of government. But anyways, Ontario, first of all, 40 stores. 40 stores would not handle Toronto, never mind the province of Ontario. Let me give you just a very brief overview of Ontario's population. Canada has 36 million people, 13 million of which reside in Ontario. 13 million in Ontario. 1/3 of this country lives in Ontario. So that's 13 million people. If you work it out, I looked at the census. I did look this up. 6 million of the 13 million are under 19. So that makes 7 million adults. If you take the lowest estimates of usage, some people are saying only 5 to 7% of Canadian adults smoke pot. Okay, let's say 5%, even though I say it's easily 15 to 20%, just people won't admit it. But let's say it's 5%. That makes 350,000 adults who are going to want to buy from 40 stores. So it doesn't even make logical sense, never mind fiscal sense. Fiscally, having your province run your spirits, alcohol or cannabis or anything else for that matter, having a crown corporation and that being the only source will not achieve Prime Minister Trudeau's supposed reason for legalizing, and that's get rid of the black market and gray market and get rid of prohibition so we can keep it away from kids. What's going to happen in Ontario is nobody will be able to purchase. There won't be enough stores, and the quality will be low, and ability to find the stores, all that will lead people to a local black market and a Canadian-wide glut that other provinces will find ways through online to deliver to. Ontario's dumb. Let's move on, because now we go on to La Belle de Province, Quebec. La Belle Province plans to sell recreational marijuana at Société Québécoise de Cannabis, a provincially owned corporation that will be overseen by Quebec's Liquor Control Board. Legal age will be at 18. Unlike other provinces, Quebec will not allow their population to grow their own. Now, Quebec's not a great area for growing, but still, that's ridiculous. New Brunswick. I love New Brunswick. It's so pretty if you could go. New Brunswick plans to sell recreational marijuana in provincially owned retailers overseen by the Liquor Board. The legal age said 19, which is the same as to buy alcohol. The province will allow residents to grow at home, but the province is putting strict control on making sure that your stash or your grow is locked up in rooms that cannot be accessed by children. This is pretty big, that it's supposed to be locked up like your firearms, but your booze can be out in the open. So New Brunswick has some work to do there. Nova Scotia, a few people have told me that and sent me links that province is going to sell their cannabis directly in the liquor stores. This is only a rumor. This is only a rumor. As it says here, Nova Scotia has not released their plans yet and plan to release their regulations by the end of 2017, so we should hear soon. But they have not released them yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Give me a link. But if they are stupid enough to sell something that has such a strong medicinal value right beside alcohol, and the two don't mix well, all of us know that. Drinkers know that. Pot users know that. And the mix. They're asking for trouble. They're really asking for trouble. PEI, Prince Edward Island, for you that don't understand, PEI plans to review input from the public and local stakeholders while developing regulations throughout this winter. So they're not ready yet. Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada's easternmost province, plans to license private retailers that will be regulated by Newfoundland Liquor Control. That's okay. People living in remote regions of the province will also be able to purchase online at select NLC locations. That's the Newfoundland Liquor Control. The legal age at 19. Then we get to our 3 territories. Yukon. Now think of this. Remember, for those of you not looking at your map, look at your map. We're now talking. These territories of Canada run right into the Arctic Circle, right up to Santa Claus. Yukon. The Yukon plans to have at least one provincially run cannabis store open for business by July 1. One store. Of course, their population is not huge. But most Yukoners will likely have to order it online. The territory's government plans to oversee the importation, warehousing, and transportation. There won't be much growing up there. But they are considering allowing private retailers to distribute it alongside a Crown Corp like BC is proposing. The legal age set at 19. Northwest Territories. This is an interesting one. The Northwest Territories plans to let individual communities decide whether to uphold or repeal marijuana prohibition through public plebiscites, which are also used in that territory, to determine whether or not to allow alcohol in their jurisdictions. These are very remote places, especially Northwest Territories has only, I think, one major city. Most of it are little communities, and each of those communities have very far-reaching rights to change their local laws for their community as best they see fit. The legal age will be 19. Nunavut, our most recent territory, which used to be just an extension of the Northwest Territories, Nunavut has also finished their public consultations, but draft regulations have not been released yet. That's the country. That's the whole country. And now my overall thoughts after a dab of CBD, because I'm all excited and I need a little bit of relaxation. CBD, it's my favorite medicine. Oh, that's beautiful. That's Critical Mass from MMJ Total Healthcare. Now let's move on. My commercials are short and sweet, just like me. I've now talked about every single province right across Canada and told you Bill C-45 is now sitting in the House, sitting with the Senate. Not going to be changed much. It's going to be law. We're almost there. Many provinces have decided to allow for retail markets, for non-public corporations. Some of them with a partnership with the Crown corporations, and none of it is insisting on the use of the licensed producers. The LP will slowly go away. We can tell that because although all the LPs will still be there, they've got their foothold in already, and any of the provinces going by Crown corporations are going to go direct to those big LPs. But almost all the provinces are allowing a craft industry to start to bloom. This will grow. There will be few and far between, except in Alberta, where the whole thing will be private. Yay, Alberta. We're getting there. We're getting there. I almost wanted to read this to you as if I were my 16-year-old self from 1976, having been transported into the future to today to read this news. Because I would have been saying, holy shit, far out, man. Wow, really? Dig it. You know? Because no way my 16-year-old self thought I'd ever see the end of cannabis prohibition. I don't totally call it legalization. There are so many regulations that it's not free. You don't have total freedom with this plant. We're being told how to do it, when to enjoy it, how to enjoy it, where to enjoy it, and if to enjoy it. If you're enjoying it too much, look out, in Ontario at least. So that is that item right across Canada. I think we're getting there. Then now I have a news story from cbc.ca that states, and it was sent to me by James Hancock, public and private. No, went to this. James sent me something about BC is going to put it in, sell it like liquor board with the government. And I searched and I found this. There is plans that there will be provincial stores, but this is a really good story. This says that public and private stores to sell pot in BC with 19 as the purchasing age. This breaks down BC's not fully developed regulations yet. It's a good, strong regulation. I think it supports the current, most of the really big and medical type dispensaries that are in BC, I feel seem to be safe and protected under this. They have time now to approach the province and get licenses and become ready for the new year if they want to sell that. We do need to see more of the government's response as to how this is going to affect our medical. Neither this or the previous article has touched on that, nor can I. This is a good article. I just recommend you read it. There's really not much for me to say. The union's happy with the move. Of course they are, because that means that some of the BC Liquor Control Board can expand. The union's always happy to expand. They get more money. Advocate not too happy. Let me just say, I'll read this one part of this from CBC. Marijuana legalization advocate Dana Larson, but I do not support Dana 100% here, Sensible CBC, said he was not too happy about the LDB acting as the province's wholesaler. I think it's going to add a layer of bureaucracy and cost too much for not much benefit. I agree with him there. And I do think we have to remember this is a foot in the door. The door is opening. In Alberta, it's opening pretty wide. BC, a little bit tighter. Ontario, it's barely open. I think they just unlocked it. That's all. And what's going to happen is in Alberta, they're going to see high revenues, very low black market, very low gray market. They're going to see a huge economic boost throughout the province. They're going to see that the private method works. They're going to see in Ontario that they're going to lose huge taxpayer money through this. They're going to build stores and not be able to stay up to demand. They're going to have crappy stuff, and sooner or later they're going to be forced by their own constituents to stand up and say why they are wasting the tax money, because this is supposed to expand your economy and help schools and children and the homeless. There's so much can be done through proper advocacy and proper legalization, and Ontario is not doing that. let me move on. Next story. Next story is 8 amazing facts about the endocannabinoid system, ECS. The endocannabinoid system is an incredible system between the CB1 and CB2 receptors. We have thousands of receptors all over our body. I'm going off my head right now. I'm not reading off of that. And it is there to maintain homeostasis, the right mix between negative and positive. And if we're not feeding that system, it has a harder time keeping up. Okay. Number one, humans aren't alone in having an endocannabinoid system. We're not special. Not only is the endocannabinoid system found in all vertebrates, but scientists also discovered cannabinoid receptors in non-vertebrate sea squirts, suggesting an evolutionary process dating back about 600 million years. CB1 receptors are the most abundant neurotransmitter receptors in the brain. It's amazing. Number 3, endocannabinoids signal backwards. Most neurotransmitters communicate in one direction, from the signaling neuron to the postsynaptic neuron. But in the endocannabinoid system, it works in the opposite direction, which is called retrograde signaling. This means that if a receptor is being over or understimulated, it signals backwards across the synapse, telling the signaling neuron to change its behavior. I wanted to get this far. You guys can read the rest. The reason I wanted to get this far is this is our pain network, our body control system network. It comes from our brain, and our part of our brain, I truly believe, we are controlled by our organs, our heart, our lungs, our stomach, all those things, and our brain. Through these receptors, if they're working correctly, you have back and forth as to homeostasis. That's what that was talking about, is that if the brain is getting stimulated too much, thanks to our receptors, if they're properly plugged and properly working, it'll send back to the sender, hey, slow down. Or if not enough, hey, speed up. And that's, they say, what fibromyalgia is the opposite of. It's our broken endocannabinoid system. We're not getting proper signals. I have, for instance, you look at my hand, I have pools of blood in my hand. I have that in my feet. Most fibromyalgics have some form of this called palm erythema. But when my brain gets the signals that these nerves are damaged and not working well, it doesn't get a complete signal, and it doesn't know, is it the hand or is it the back? And maybe that's why my back hurts right now. You know, it's misdiagnosis. The more medicated I am, the better that system is talking to each other, the better I'm fixing it. Other people who don't have a broken endocannabinoid system get much even stronger benefits because the homeostasis is found right away. I'm moving on to the next story and the second to last story. These last two are just fun ones. Second last one, yes, look below from Global News, and I'm not going to play the video, but you can play it. Have a couple of tokes, you know, have another one on me, and then listen to our Member of Legislative Assembly, MLA, saying that marijuana legalization could lead to a communist revolution. He goes on to compare the early 1900s in China with an opium problem, and they legalized it, and following the legalization of that came many, many decades of their revolution. Correlation is not causation. This is one of the best ways to put it. But this is somebody just trying to get their voice out there, trying to be a somebody in something he fully does not understand. So I've got that below because I think you'll find it funny. Let's move on. And the last story is just it's one for you insomniacs. It's something that maybe you can just add this to a bookmark on your page or print it out or do something. But you insomniacs, this is Leafly's listing of getting a good night's sleep. Tells you all the different, and there's only hybrids and indicas here. Believe me, sativa will not help you sleep. But here's a listing of, let's see, there's 6 across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 26 different strains that'll help you sleep. So I hope that helps you all. We are at the end of Hippie News Network number 114. Wow, we're getting there. I can't wait to get to 200. That's just kind of cool. But by then my hair is going to be down to here, eh? Peace and cheers, friends. Love and harmony. Look for someone without a smile and give them one of yours. And remember, without you, we can't fight the stigma of this medicine, this beautiful plant. Let's get rid of the stigma. Let's share the information. Let's get people educated. It's only through us that we can do that. Peace and cheers, friends. See you again soon.